General Petraeus, the Russian officials today saying the first stage of their operation is complete, and now they can focus on their main goal, which is to liberate the Donbas. What do you make of that? Could this be taken as sort of a climb down by Russia?
I think it is. It's an extraordinary rationalization, given that the most important objective of the operation was to take the capital, topple the government, and install a pro-Russian president in replace of President Zelensky, of course. They obviously have been stopped cold outside Kyiv. In fact, the Ukrainians have been conducting local counterattacks to the west and to the east. They still have not yet encircled Kharkiv. It's only in the south where they have had some modicum of success, most significantly, of course, in encircling Mariupol, the very important port city that is just to the west of the Donbas. And they have, in fact, pushed out somewhat from the separatist-controlled areas to try to approach their objective, try to achieve the control of all of the two oblasts of Donetsk and Luhansk, the so-called Donbas. But they'll still have a lot more work to do there. Now, if Mariupol does fall, and unfortunately, it's probably that the days are numbered. When that does happen, it may free some Russian forces that could then turn north and east and perhaps help them make the progress that they're trying to achieve now, apparently, in the Donbas. Even as though the other areas, of course, they've really been stopped very short of their objectives.
And at the same time, you have Ukrainians saying they've killed several top Russian generals. That is unusual. What do you make of that?
Well, they've killed quite a substantial number. I think the number now is at least 7 or more, in addition to a number of battalion and brigade commanders, so regimental commanders, as they are termed. So again, what's happening here is the command and control system has broken down. You have also young officers who don't have initiative, and it's not part of their culture. There's no real professional non-commissioned officer corps as there is in Canada and the United States. So when senior officers get frustrated, a column stops, they hop out of their vehicle, they go forward, and very capable Ukrainian snipers are picking them off. This is a very substantial toll, again, on their leaders, and it has mounted with every passing day. One of the real vulnerabilities that's been demonstrated so far, in addition, of course, to the complete failure of their logistical system, not to mention the overall campaign, which has resulted in that rationalization that we started by discussing.
And so really the big question is here, how does this all play out? How does this end? And what happens if Putin feels he's backed into a corner? There's the looming elephant in the room of chemical and biological warfare.
Well, I think there are a number of different dynamics here. One is obviously the dynamic on the battlefield and how President Putin sees it. Does he at some point get a sense that there's not much more to be achieved? And maybe if they do achieve control of all of the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts, plus perhaps a land bridge that extends from there to Crimea, they can say that, well, this is a great victory. All the other operations were just to keep those forces pinned down outside Kyiv and Kharkiv and Mykolaiv and so forth, having also not gotten to the strategic port city of Odessa. But maybe that's enough. He realizes they're not going to achieve any more. He can't replace the casualties. We talked about the casualties to general officers and the senior commanders. They've taken enormous casualties in the ranks. We think that the number is at least twice that of what the United States suffered in 20 years of tough fighting in Iraq. So this is a really extraordinary number of casualties. And if one assumes the number of wounded is several times the number of losses, which are at least 7 and could be as high as 10,000, then there's just no way that the Russians can replace all of those. They're scouring the Eastern Military District, Syria, Georgia, even bringing some of their military contractors, the paramilitary, essentially mercenary Wagner group, in to try to plug the gap as well. So that's one dynamic. The other dynamic, of course, is what's taking place in Russia, especially in Moscow, and that's the decimation of the Russian economy, noting that as long as they have coal, gas, and oil, they're still going to be able to generate revenue in various ways. But of course, the stock market was closed. It opened under very, very constrained circumstances. The ruble is close to worthless. And they've seen over 400 Western companies essentially shut down in Russia or completely leave. They're seeing a hemorrhaging of the best and brightest. The talented are leaving. And of course, you have very serious sanctions and the financial freeze of the foreign reserves that has essentially brought their financial system very near collapse as well. So they're in a very difficult situation there, although I should note again that this is an economy and a country that has anticipated at least some of the sanctions, but by no means, I think, envisioned the totality of what has been imposed on them. But that's another dynamic. And then you have the dynamic of President Zelensky in Kyiv. And when he sees the daily destruction, further destruction, loss of innocent life, loss of his some of his forces and so forth, when can all of this come together where each of the leaders will be willing to compromise in a way that was not possible prior to the invasion? And that's, I think, when you might be able to get some kind of negotiated settlement, the outlines of which are starting to appear a bit at this point in time.
All right, lots to watch, and we'll keep watching. Thanks so much, General Petraeus.
A pleasure. Thank you.